Do you really want to play miniatures games, but you're worried that you don't have enough miniatures, or money, or time, or even friends? Stay tuned to Freeman's Fun and Games as I open my scrapbook on what might be my most rewarding gaming experience ever. Welcome. I want to do something a bit different with this video and talk through a game that kept me entertained and my creative juices flowing for an entire year. That game is Ivan Sorensen's 5 Parsecs From Home. This is a solo adventure game. You create a crew of a spaceship, and that spaceship goes on fine adventures across the galaxy. You make a number of very random rolls, and what you basically have to do is try and make sense of those rolls, turn them into a coherent story that affects your crew. And in many ways, that's what makes this game so brilliant. So in 5 Parsecs From Home, you start off by creating a crew. There's a character generation section, and you have very basic kind of stats and background. The really interesting thing is rolling up your background for each character, what their job is, what they are good at. And you kind of obviously try and then make sense of all that and try and work out how they know each other. And then it's kind of episodic in nature. You have a pre-battle section, which is kind of where the story comes in. It's where you get missions, where things happen to your characters. Then you have a combat sort of scenario, a miniatures game, if you like, as the sort of centerpiece. And then there are post-battle section as well. So here's the battles. This is the sort of middle bit, and you're rolling random enemies, everything is random in this game. And then post-battle, so here where you level up, things happen in the story, there's repercussions perhaps to the battle that took place, and that's it. That's kind of how 5 Parsecs From Home works, and you rinse and repeat. But it's amazing the different variety that you can get within that to make this game different, and hopefully my campaign will show you how that's possible. So I got this game probably about 3 or 4 years ago. 2023, that was the year that I played 5 Parsecs. I just rediscovered war games after a 35-year hiatus, so I'd stumbled upon the game Dead Zone, which is absolutely genius, and I'll touch on that in another video. But my gaming community was really role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, rather than war games, and we'd sort of lost momentum over the lockdown. And I guess COVID also made all of us want to do things in the house on our own. And so painting models was kind of something that had my interest in that had reawoken. Hadn't actually done any painting for since I was a kid. And even then, not very good. So it wasn't something I was kind of confident at. And also, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it because I didn't have a community of friends that were, egging me on or anything, and it was very much a solo affair. So I'd been watching a YouTuber, Me, Myself, and Die, Trevor Duval, who is a voice actor, brilliant storyteller, and he does a series on 5 Parsecs From Home. So I thoroughly recommend you check that out because it's very entertaining. And it really inspired me to get the game. I got this for my birthday, and I didn't really have much in the way of models. I had got Dead Zone. I'd also bought a Mantic Crazy box. They do a sort of random box of minis. And in that year, there was a sci-fi themed one. I got that, and I thought, oh, that's good because it will get me some crews for Dead Zone. But it was quite random. There was some old space orcs and some robots and big armored guys and so on. But it wasn't really anything that could create a crew of a spaceship. And I had it in my head before I'd even looked at the book that maybe I'd want to do some all-female space pirates or something like that. So I bought one sprue from eBay of the Stargrave Woman crew uh, box, just one sprue, because I thought 5 models, that's all you need for your crew, right, for your spaceship. But when I got the book, I decided that actually I was going to uh, roll up my crew completely randomly. We were on holiday when I got this, so I got this notebook in the local shop, and I started to fill this notebook. And today's video, I'm going to go through all the stuff in my notebook and also all the photos I took and that I shared on the 5 Parsecs From Home Facebook group as well, which hopefully will show you kind of my journey through the game. So there are different ways to compose your crew, to create your crew. You can base it on a sort of first timer one, which is just have 6 humans and get on with it. The standard one is that 3 must be human and the other 3 you can choose. There's a miniatures method, which is basically what minis have you got, make characters to fit those, which is quite cool. Or there is completely random, which is what I went for. The first thing I rolled up was a bot. I thought, well, okay, bang goes my idea of an all-female space pirates. It's a bot, so not much personality there. I was very keen that it wouldn't be Star Wars type droid. It would be more of an automaton, maybe a bit more classic sci-fi. That was the only thing I had in my head. The next thing I rolled up was a human who lived on a space station. I assumed a woman. She had a wealthy individual patron, but she was a technician. So ultimately, her speciality was that she was a technician, maybe a mechanic, maybe she makes robots. I was already trying to link the characters together. The third character I rolled up was a bit strange. It was on the random table and it came up as a feeler. Now I couldn't work out, some of the things in 5 Parsecs are obvious what they're trying to proxy, which sci-fi things they're borrowing from. The feeler was a bit odd. Sort of a heavy empath type. I thought maybe this is meant to be like Deanna Troi from The Next Generation or something. Yeah, she had come from an orphan utility program. So she's an orphan. She feels things very strongly, and she has a patron that's an enforcer. So I thought that was a really interesting background. I thought maybe this is going to be my main character, although a deep empath doesn't seem like the type that's going to be the captain of the ship. Then my fourth character I rolled up was another bot, and I thought, well, my second character is maybe creates or builds robots, so maybe she's got 2. The fifth character was another human. This was someone with a giant city background, a trader, motivated by survival. So this was somebody maybe someone who was a bit of a wheeler and dealer and had to make some good deals to survive. Okay. My sixth character was someone who'd come from a war-torn hellhole. That was their background. They were an enforcer. Wait, an enforcer? So the feeler has a patron who's an enforcer. Maybe this character saved that other character and took them under their wing. Yeah, this sounds like the captain. Okay, so I'd rolled these random characters. I had to make them somehow know each other, and I'd already started to think about that. And this is the basic story that I came up with. The industrial world Lamarck provides vital minerals for the inhabited worlds of the Altmore system. Altmore is actually the name of the house that we were staying in on the holiday I was at, so you can see where I got the inspiration for that. So living and working conditions on Lamarck are very poor. Workers are made to work long shifts. They're cooped up together, communal accommodation against a harsh environment, an unbreathable atmosphere. Eventually, the workers rise up, they get fed up, and they seize control of the planet. They stop production and then demand that conditions are improved. So there's a brutal and bloody siege where the corporations try to eliminate the rebels while keeping all the mining infrastructure intact, obviously. So it's a bit of a red faction take on it. And on this planet, there are orphanariums that spring up, allegedly to deal with to house and look after the children of people who've died in this conflict. One such child is Ponine Pathé, a sensitive soul, an empath, you could say, who had nevertheless been selected to join a program, a secret program, to train up rebel infiltrators designed to create spies who could seamlessly integrate into the upper echelons of corporate culture to sabotage and gain political influence. I'd called this planet Lamarck because of Les Miserables, Lamarck is dead. So I thought of revolution. You know, this story was born out of this revolution on this planet. And the Lamarck Liberation Army were the rebel forces who the initial strike, the initial thing had been put down, and now there was an underground resistance. And Ponine is a very young, teenager, and she's an orphan. But the orphanage isn't just an ordinary orphanage; it is actually training people up. So she's being trained in etiquette, and she's adapted her innate ability to understand people's feelings, to be an empath, and weaponize that. That's what the Lamarck Liberation Army are trying to do. But espionage is a two-way street. The corporations are tipped off. The orphanage is bombed. Luckily for Ponine, among the invading force was Captain Kennedy Blythe. A native to Lamarck herself, she's ordered to press in and eliminate any survivors. Now, she comes from this place. These are her people. She saw these targets were in fact young children. She was horrified. Here was a child. What was she, 14? Terrified but alive. Kennedy vowed to take the child off-world where she could find a new future, away from the conflict of her roots. Dressing Ponine in the garb of a fallen enforcer comrade, Kennedy commandeered a small jump ship, but it could only just make it into orbit. Rather than dock at the corporate station, Kennedy requested docking at a small satellite. Surprisingly, she was given authorization to dock right next to a strange, unrecognizable alien craft, because in 5 Parsecs From Home, you also roll your spaceship. So a strange alien craft is what they have. The person who lives on this space station, this small remote space station, is just one person, and that is Crazy Kaylee. The other thing that I bought when preparing for this game, I went on, I think it was either Amazon or eBay, and I found ridiculously cheap this game, Firefly Adventures. I bought this for the models because clearly this game with a ragtag crew of space farers going around having adventures, the models of Firefly would be good, I thought, for the game. I didn't want them to be too like for like, but I needed a mechanic who built robots, so it came from this. As an aside, I still haven't played this game. I bought this, I used it for 5 parsecs, and I've never played it. So if you've played this game, let me know in the comments. Let me know if it's any good or not. One day, maybe I'll get around to it. So, Crazy Kaylee lives on this space station alone. I'm thinking maybe she is a bit like Kaylee from Firefly, but older. Maybe things didn't work out. She's gone a bit crazy. She lives on her own. She makes her own friends. I was a bit inspired by the guy from Blade Runner who makes his own friends and that. She's made these warbots, Wall and Earg. I think I'd been inspired. I thought it was like Christopher Robin and Pooh and Eeyore and stuff. So that was a poor joke to myself. But I was only playing this game for myself, so I could name these characters whatever I wanted, right? So everything had gone wrong for Kaylee. She doesn't let anyone in. There is something desperate in the voice of Kennedy's Hale that sounds a bit familiar to her. She recognizes herself in the plight of this ship. She takes them in. She lets in these two fugitives. The alarms trip because, of course, the corporations have followed them there. They've tracked the ship and they come in. The officers come in looking for them. She hides them away. I don't know, maybe she's got a smuggling compartment in this space station somewhere. She manages to hide them. She has her two trusted servo bots, ILB and ELB. Now I wanted something, as I say, classic sci-fi, so I got these 3D prints from eBay. As you can see, I hadn't been painting for long, so it's a bit of a simple job as well. But they did the trick. I made their chest panels different colors so I could tell which one was which. She commits to take the two bots and her fugitives down to the main planet El Philippe Prime, where her trusted friend Tanaway, a politician, someone of influence on that planet that she knows from the past. I was thinking maybe Simon Tan gets a good job and he goes and, they maybe used to be lovers. She's got this contact. She wants to go to the planet. She's going to take them there and see if he can help them escape or, find a new life. However, because of the revolution on the mining planet, El Philippe Prime has a lot of political tension. Tanaway really doesn't want that kind of attention, so he sends them to his loyal trader and fixer, O'Burke. So the other thing I had got is some figures for the Aliens board game. How can you find a trader model? So Burke seemed like the kind of most, usable model of that kind. So I think that kind of informs his character, as you'll see. So I rolled up El Philippe Prime. This is my first mission. It has strict licensing laws, especially around weapons. Well, that makes sense, right? Because there's an uprising at one of the other planets of the system. O'Burke is the kind of guy who can get things done. After all, remember, he's a survivor. So I had a crew. What I needed now was a story for them to fit in. When you start a campaign in 5 Parsecs From Home, you have to set yourself a victory condition. Now, this can be maybe you're going to win 100 battles, or you're going to kill 10 unique characters, or maybe it's as simple as I'm going to play 20 turns or 50 turns. I thought one of the most interesting ones to do was upgrade a single character 10 times. So if there was a character that developed the most, then that would be their story, if you like. It would hinge around their development. And from a narrative perspective, I thought that was the most interesting. So that's the one I chose. And it seemed to me, from rolling up these characters, that my feeler, my empath, this orphan, would be the most interesting character to do that. The feeler, though, has a disadvantage in that if they fall out, like if one of your random rolls in a pre-battle or post-battle stage is that they fall out with another teammate, they will automatically leave the crew. In other words, my victory condition could be undermined with a single dice roll. So although the Osprey is an alien craft that's quite conspicuous, Pernine is worried about being spotted. She stays in the ship while Blythe dons a cloak to enter into the market. So at this point, this is where I'm rolling the pre-game rolls. Kenaway is very pleased to see Kaylee again and understanding of her need to get off the system. He gives her a tip-off. Some pirates had holed themselves up in an old bunker outside the city, but the word is they'd been dragged off mysteriously into the night. What had they been keeping there? Now, Tanaway knew that they were also trying to get off-world, so maybe they could pick up some tips on this. Meanwhile, O'Burke is offered a wee job from a sector government official on the down low. It should be straightforward, no rush, easy money. Sounds fishy. So this is my first game, or picture from my first game, and you can see I'd rolled up these weird abductor aliens, which I think had classic aliens. I didn't have anything like that, so I gave these space dwarves, I think they're from Dreadball, a weird purplish skin tone, and they were the enemies. They went into this bunker here, this construct in the desert, to try and see what they could get from the pirates. As it turned out, the pirate crew were sitting on a decent hoard. They'd clearly liberated from some unexpected victim. There's also they found a locket with a photograph of the pirates' young family. If they could ever get to where they started, they could return that. And Ponine thinks that would be the right thing to do. They found a rumor as well, and rumors can be anything really, but they all lead towards some objective, some big story event. So I decided that it would be strange symbolry on a parchment, some kind of almost quasi-religious thing, perhaps. I didn't know what, but let's see where the story takes us. LB, the robot, comes back damaged, and Kaylee's a bit annoyed about that. They show Tanaway the parchment. You made a bit of noise out there, he says. People have been asking questions. I think you'd better keep the numbers down this next time. So I had rolled that this second mission had to be fewer people. His drinking partner, Ariel Cortez, jumps in. I have a pressing issue you could help with if that's the type of work you're into. It's on my property, so I guarantee it won't be swarming with nasties. A rival faction, I don't yet know who, has hired some sort of elite mercenary to intercept and steal my valuable seed deliveries. So I had thought she maybe worked in horticulture, and as you can see, I created these domes from humus pots or something, and put some weeds from the garden in them. And I think these other things are chocolate box things or some sort of packaging from the recycling. So they had to go in here, and this powerful mercenary was their enemy. And this was a fun battle as well. So here's Tanaway. He's the wealthy contact. Third, in one of the missions anyway, they have to sneak him into a senator's house so that he can speak to him. Militia have been put in his house for his own protection, but it means that no one can speak to him. This mission actually failed. Tanaway was gunned down on the steps of the lobby. But they do find a rumour. There's a notebook with secret information on it. Fear not, Senator Mackay says. I will ensure Tanaway receives treatment. These bogies don't have permission to enter the property, but he did. I will lodge a complaint, but I can't acknowledge your presence. Better make yourself scarce. Don't contact me. I will contact you. In turn 4, I had rolled security bots as the enemy. And you can see here, and the security bots, I didn't have any security bots, and I thought I'd have a bit of fun. So what I did was I got some beer caps, and I basically just attached cocktail sticks to them. Uh, and I gave a couple of them a claws, I think, and then the other ones are just weapons from a sprue. I was quite pleased with this kit bash. It cost me nothing, again, it was just about making the scenarios with what I had. Um, that claw, as you can see, was pretty scary in this mission. Blythe surged forward at the end with the boarding saber, beating the final bot back to the wall, and LB had let him have it with the rattle gun from short range. It was pretty dramatic. So in turn 5, they meet another character, and this is Joyce. Joyce was an on-ship pen pusher for the Scalini Corporation, which specialises in long-haul freight between systems. It was an okay job. It paid okay, but Joyce felt trapped by it. She wanted to see new worlds, but most of the time she just saw her desk. When her ship was commandeered by pirates, she showed no resistance but persuaded them to head for El Philippe Prime. Once there, she gave them the slip. Ambitious, Joyce finds a captain drinking in a bar. She needs protection from the pirates looking for her, so she joins the crew. She's ambitious. She's quite selfish. So the pirates catch up with her. So I had rolled this new character, and instantly her rival caught up with her. So we then had a battle with the pirates. Miller's crew, they're called. And they remain a rival of our crew. ILB is obliterated in the battle, but because Kaylee is a bot technician, she gets a reroll, and ILB survives with minor damage. So the relief is palpable. They also meet another character, Torque. Torque Angelus. I guessed he was more of a classic adventurer type, because I didn't really have any characters like that at that point. So they spend the evening with the new crewmates, drinking, playing cards, and watching reels. Kaylee's troubled though. She's seen her old friend Tanaway gunned down by the very men who are supposed to be protecting him. She's seen reliable security bots rendered obsolete with ease, and now criminal elements have been able to completely take over a spaceport lobby, seriously damage her friend, a bot. She urges the rest of the crew to help Senator Mackay bring order to the chaos, so El Philippe Prime can return to the kind of boring, peaceful existence the old her had wanted to get away from, and find a peaceful solution in Lamarck. In fact, a data file extracted by Torque provides clear and irrefutable evidence of a planned military coup. Episode 6. Panine meets someone she recognizes, a fellow orphaned infiltrator. She tells her there is disquiet at Sassofino, who is leading the LLA's insurgents on El Philippe Prime. Most people want peace. He wants power. Any negotiated settlement for Lamarck must bypass him. So, we're getting onto a quest here, because can they resolve the unrest on Lamarck? Can they stop the corporations from overreaching? And what is really going on? This character, Sassovino, he's been forging religious texts and iconography in order to make him seem like some kind of messiah. Imagine doing that. Senator Mackay believes this evidence undermines both the LLA's plans on El Philippe Prime and the justification for the coup for the corporations. The proof of the coup has been very useful, so she equips the crew with shoulder cams and location an old temple. She wants hard evidence and footage. The LLA will also be astonished by this. Panine can't appear in the footage, so she will have to sit the mission out. So, when the team arrive in the temple, Miller's crew, remember them, Joyce's rivals, they're waiting. After this mission, they get intel. It shows a plan to release some kind of toxic virus or chemical into the Lamarck water supply. It looks like Sansovino was sitting on this information to allow it to happen and use it to stoke outrage and revolution here on El Philippe Prime. The crew resolved to intercept and prevent this, leaving Mackay to break the news in the Senate and stop the coup. So, are they going to have to head back to Lamarck? It certainly seems that way. Episode 7, Return to Lamarck. And so this was the quest conclusion. It means it wrapped up this bit of the story. Captain Blythe and Ward Panine have returned to Lamarck, the planet of their birth, now ravaged by revolution, as I say. Blythe's old enforcer troop, who she'd, of course, betrayed to rescue Panine from the orphanage, they're the ones tasked with this horrible job, to release this virus or this chemical to break the uprising for good. The crew have to find this device before it's too late. And then Captain Kennedy gets a message. I can't believe you're stupid enough to show your face here, Kennedy, after the stunt you pulled during Operation KC. You and that weirdo kid are too late. You're wasting your time. The device is hooked up and my team will make sure you don't get off a world again. Sayonara, sister. The crew are successful. At this point, on the Facebook group for Five Parsecs From Home, some people had taken an interest in the story, so I made up these little graphics which show a bit of the dialogue that happens between the characters. So yeah, the dust has settled. A fragile peace has emerged. The NWPS, that's the corporation, they had their plans for a coup had been discovered. So they begin a slow withdrawal from Lamarck. No one is any doubt that operatives will remain, as will unpaid mercenaries who see this power vacuum as an opportunity. As you can see, I kind of tried to tell the story through the characters. You can see my terrible paint jobs on these characters up close. In the post-battle, I ruled that the NWPS, that's the corporation, were no longer rivals. I didn't want them out of the game entirely because it was quite a good tension between this corporate rule and their use of military, and these kind of outcasts, this crew. So they weren't out of the story entirely. So that was the first part of my Five Parsecs From Home scrapbook. I hope you're invested in the story as much as I was. Stay tuned. We'll be back with a part 2.